Hello, I'm Mary Rodwell, author of Awakening and principal of the Australian Close Encounter Resource Network here in Perth, Western Australia. I'm a former nurse midwife, a professional counsellor and hypnotherapist. For the past 10 years, I've been researching the experience called Close Encounters with Non-Human Extraterrestrial Beings. Initially, I believed this was a rare experience, but soon discovered I was wrong. For in the past 7 years, just over 800 people have resourced to CERN. Contact is a global phenomenon, and many people are totally unaware what it is they are experiencing. And many believe they're going crazy. Are these people Star Trek fanatics who can't wait to be abducted? In my experience, nothing could be further from the truth. Most I've found to be sane, highly intelligent individuals who themselves are the most skeptical of their experiences. Contact reality often shows itself through emotional and psychological trauma, whereas fantasy does not. Trauma which results not just from contact itself, but the reactions of many people to it. Derision and fear are the outcome. The fear the experiencers, as we call them, understand very well. But it seems if they can gain the courage to face these fears and acknowledge their experiences, both healing and growth can take place. Understanding of their experiences often creates a shift within the person, which can prove highly transformative, both psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. Many gain a passion for planet Earth, the sacredness of all life, and sensitivity to a multi-reality. Some gain healing skills and ongoing mental, telepathic communication with the visitors. In the previous film, Expressions of ET Contact, a Visual Blueprint, you were shown artwork by experiencers who had drawn the beings they'd seen and heard their detailed accounts. We heard the story from Tracy Taylor, who not only remembers her contacts, but also manifests complex artwork, symbols, scripts, and spoke in many strange languages. We also saw artwork and similar expressions from others. This video, Expressions of ET Contact, a Communication Healing Blueprint, takes such information to another more complex and exciting level. It adds a global perspective. We demonstrate that this phenomenon is happening worldwide and include individuals from both America, Israel, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Unusual artwork, symbolism, scripts and strange languages, and personal testimony from individuals who explain why they believe they manifest their contact in such a way and what they think it means. Their interpretations will astound you. We also look at another amazing phenomenon, the healing abilities some people exhibit after contact. We explore how such abilities manifest, as well as learn that extraterrestrials can visit in a multi-dimensional way to perform healing procedures. A young woman from Perth heals with both sound and energy, and a computer scientist from Israel works with extraterrestrials in what he believes is a multi-dimensional hospital. There is no doubt that the results are often quite tangible, and healing takes place. Make up your own mind as you hear individuals who have honoured their truth and are courageous enough to tell their story. Not only to own their contact, but how contact has changed them and their views of reality forever.
Hi, my name is Rochelle D'Elia. I've been consciously aware of my extraterrestrial contact now for 8 years, but I've been having contact my whole life. My experiences with extraterrestrials have been quite varied. I have gone through a process now over the past 8 years, and I've come through a lot of the traumatic aspect. And now my experiences have brought me many rewards, particularly in the way of healing abilities, and I myself have changed in a positive way through them. I have a lot of help with healing work. I speak in many different ET languages, and I also write in alien script. These abilities all come quite naturally to me.
How were you aware of the fact that you could heal, and what is your understanding of the healing that you do?
The healing work that I do now has changed and evolved over the years. It first began when I had an experience. I was drawn to go outside of my house at about 3 a.m. and I was looking up at the moon, and when I was looking at the moon I felt quite strange and felt to close my eyes. When I closed my eyes I felt lots of different sensations. I felt cool air being blown on my eyes and on my fingertips. I had pin-pricking sensations all over my face. I had the sensation of wind circling my head, and I could feel it clipping my nose as it went past. I also had sound waves that were going into my ear from a great distance, and these repeated over and over. I had tingling sensations all around my head as well. This process went on for some time, and when it stopped I felt I could open my eyes again, and I felt quite heavy in my body, as if there was someone else in my body. I was then drawn to go inside and lie down on my bed, and when I lay down on my bed I actually started to perform some sort of surgery on myself. I'd never done this before. I'd never had any experience of healing work either done on myself or performing it on others before. So I had my hands away from my body, and the healing involved minute movements of my fingertips. I was using my fingers, or they felt as though they were pulling what you imagine to be puppet strings. That's what it felt like. And I would have a series of consecutive movements, and I could feel the work going right through and penetrating through my organs. I would then hold my fingers sort of locking a position in place, and then I would use a series of very specific movements of the muscles in my eyes, which would then unlock or release this pressure. I had to actually move my body into different positions to access all the parts of my body. As the years went by, the healing work that I was doing actually changed, so I was using my whole hand instead of just my fingers. I wasn't actually using my eyes as much consciously, and then later on I started using toning. I was intuitively guided to use toning, and then later language came through. After the languages came through, then I started using a combination of toning and language, and songs came through. I can best explain these as being songs that are used for the soul to recognise. Souls may remember these songs from other planets, other lifetimes, and they help the individual to feel comfortable for the particular healing work to take place. Really they're used as you might use a lullaby to help a baby go to sleep. It helps them to relax. Or a chant is used to switch off the mind and help one to go into an altered state. These languages, blocks of information comes through, and to translate it into our tongue would take quite some time. Often you would need to fill a whole house with encyclopedias to actually translate a message that may be relayed in this tongue in a few seconds. A sample that is close in vibration to ours is this one. Yomiratus embrakithendra, wali aven ojindra. This means that we are reaching a stage in our evolution where chance is no longer as we imagine it. Everything has a place, and we are now drawing all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together, and we are recognizing our part as a conscious chooser within this structure.
Granda, granda, ira granda, gro, hita, oi, amera, amera, ot, ira, I, yanta.
I explain them most simply as soul languages. It is really like my soul speaking to another's soul and actually bypassing the conscious mind. This is why I don't often translate the languages, because I feel when you translate you actually are losing the integrity of the message. Often the ones that are even more complex we cannot hear normally with human hearing, but we can feel them. When I work as a healer, I switch from how I normally operate as my human self to my ET self. It might sound a bit strange, but I have been given information about my dual consciousness. I can best describe this as coming into this vehicle having both ET and human characteristics. My human self is very sensitive, very emotional. My ET self is very clinical, very practical, very matter of fact. The healing work that I do, I'm operating in ET. It is really like operating as a surgeon. I see very clearly in the energy field the problem and I fix it. There's no room for emotional involvement. My personality steps aside and I hear where the energy field is out of tune. I don't hear in the way that we normally hear. I hear with another sense, if you like, that we don't normally use. There'll be certain places in the energy field that will be out of tune, and I work to retune, almost like you would use a tuning fork to hear when a musical note is in tune. How I do this is by bringing in the frequencies that the person most needs at the time. I do this through sound and colour, and quite often symbols come through with the sounds that I translate as well. The symbols are multidimensional in nature. They're not like normal shapes that we are used to. I work with a team usually of about 6 to 10 different beings that help me, and my team actually changes as I do. Usually I don't like to name the beings that I work with or identify them. I think for me it's just important that I'm aware of their energy more than anything else, but they will give me a name if it helps me to feel comfortable and more familiar with them. The client usually will feel relaxed after a session. Usually they will feel more balanced. Quite often they will leave their body, or I will, I guess, be aware that they leave their body during the session. They may be aware that they've fallen asleep, but it's actually quite different, and they usually leave at exactly the same time during the session. It's usually about half an hour into the session that they leave. This is so deeper work can take place without their conscious mind being involved.
Can you tell us what you're writing?
Sure. It's really like translating information that has been lost, information that was known by ancient civilizations. I'm not able to give you a more accurate description of this writing. My style is really like a shorthand, if you like. It's probably quite messy. But within each character, again, like the languages, it's really like a block of information in itself. If you were able to get three-dimensional, depiction of each character, because that's how I see each one, that would be much more accurate. With all the information that comes through me, I'm aware of it being multifaceted. When I do healing work, I also will see coding in the air, in the energy field, and I may see this coding in either numbers, like you may see mathematical configurations, or I may see them as dots, or I may actually see them as portals. There are many different ways that you can view them, or you can see them as sound. It's the same with the writing too.
And what are you feeling at the moment that you're doing it? What is the sense that you have?
I feel very happy when I'm expressing in these ways, when I'm expressing through what people might call ET languages or ET writing. It feels much more natural for me than many of the human forms of expression. I guess this has to do with my dual consciousness and the fact that for me it is really learning about being human rather than learning about being extraterrestrial. With the writing as well, what I actually enjoy doing is placing my hand over the script, because you can feel the energy from each of the symbols. You can sometimes feel heat as well, but you can definitely feel the difference when you place your hand over the symbols and then place your hand away. You actually feel very drawn to the energy, and you will actually also experience visual images if you're particularly in tune or psychic, and you can travel through portals through each one as well.
Feel very relaxed, very at ease. Like a lot of things have been taken off my shoulders.
The beings that were working with me were wanting to demonstrate how the different areas in the body actually interact. So when I was placing my hands across and pointing out different sections of the body, this was for the audience as well as for you. It was just showing how each part of the body is not independent of any other area. They all work together, and it's important that we recognise this, see the body as a whole. There are particular titles that are given to each part of the body that are related with vibrations, and by expressing the title or the name, as you would say, it actually activates that area. They also have links with different energies from planets and dimensions. So if you like, we're imagining that the body is the universe and all the planets from our solar system and all others exist within this. So we are making them all work together. And within each chakra, all of the planets exist. So we are just activating the appropriate planets for this particular vessel at this time. Others will be activated at other times, but they all exist within each chakra. And each chakra is also multidimensional in nature. It is not, as we imagine, just 7 chakras, but each has many layers.
I would now like to introduce Adrian de Veer, who tells his own story and how he heals in clinics with extraterrestrials.
My name is Adrian de Veer. I'm an engineer. I develop computers for military use, and this is not all the things I'm doing in life. I have a hobby. I treat people as a healer with the use of aliens medical team that built a clinic in my home. I never believed in channeling and mystic. This is not was something that was one of my interests. But something strange happened during my military service about 20 years ago. The first time that I decided to jump deep into this issue is after my father, he had cancer and he died. And several months later, I went from my office where I'm working to my car in the evening to drive home, and I felt he's sitting beside me and telling me, be careful, don't drive too fast. And I started communicating with him, in my mind. I felt him near me. I had the sensation he is there, and I saw him in a way, not with my eyes, but in something telepathically. And I decided I cannot let it go and say, go away, I don't believe in ghosts. And I decided to just study this thing. I have a second degree in computer engineering. I think I did a PhD on this issue. And I started with reading all the books I could find about it, and consulting with mediums, and taking courses of meditation, of channeling. And at one point I met Chaya Levi. She also did some similar courses, and she started to discover also she is a medium. And one day she saw in her apartment very strange creature, not in the physical but in the other dimension. And she got very afraid. She said, go away, you are demons. And I said, no, we are not demons, we are a medical team of aliens, and we see that you people come to you for channeling, for help, and we want to open a clinic in your apartment and help people. And at first she was, said, no, I cannot open a clinic, I'm not a doctor, but they convinced her they are what they say they are, because they cure her back problem. And she accepted, and for 3 weeks she heard very loud noises. She saw in her third vision, in another dimension, they are building a hospital, a small hospital, all kind of strange equipment like CT, MRI, laboratories. And they started to cure people with the help of Chaya Levi as an intermediate or a medium. And I was one of the first clients that came to Chaya, and I saw them. I saw a very strange looking creature, and they solved some, almost all of my medical problems. And at some point, it seems to me that it's very important to do what they are doing, and they asked me if I want to help them. And I accepted, and they sent me to a healing course, and at some point they opened a clinic in my apartment. And I started to treat people in the evening, in my spare time, and it was fantastic. They cure many problems, not all the problems, but most of the problems that usually the patient that come to such a clinics gave up from the conventional medicine and other problems, and out of this very large percentage, there is a very big success. And this was in '95. I started to work with the aliens, and slowly it propagated. Other mediums came to me and opened. It's like a chain. And today, end of 2002, there are more than 50 clinics in Israel, and we are in relation with another. We consult one healer with another, and meet from time to time, and it's wonderful. I know that there are many such clinics all over the world, and they are doing a great job. I took upon myself, beyond treating the cure humans, to study it, to research it, to ask a lot of questions, and to put it in writing, and to let everybody know about what's happening. I think it's a very amazing thing. And this is the first book now, second book and third book, and I hope to write many books about this. I think everybody should know about this amazing thing. I asked the medical team to explain this, and they said, oh, we don't understand much about physics, so they brought a specialist on physics, and he gave a lot of explanation. I put it then in the book, in the second part of the book, which is more complicated, and they explained that matter, as we know it, is only a small part of the matter that exists in the universe. And there are a lot of type of matters that have no interaction with each other. So what our astronomers see when they look in the universe, they see only a very small portion of the universe. There are a lot of galaxies and stars in another dimension, in many dimensions, and we just cannot see them. They are made of different matter, and we cannot touch them, we cannot see them. They can see us with special equipment, special technology, and they can come here and do what they are doing. And all the medical team and their equipment, the aliens, are part of such different matter, different dimension, and they use very sophisticated equipment to enter our dimension and make treatment, medical treatment, and go back to their dimension. It happened in these special clinics. In the physical world, this is my living room, and as you can see, a normal room, nothing special. In another dimension, and not only me saying this, there are many mediums and psychics that come here and they can see it. The alien built a very large hospital in another dimension, in the same space or even larger than this space of this apartment, which is a very large apartment. And mediums like me, psychics, many people that come here and look around, and they see not this room but different things. The ceiling is much taller and it has a very special construction. Above the ceiling there is usually a very large UFO that land here, and aliens come down and up and go on their business. Many people see here behind this TV on the wall like a large door and a corridor and many rooms on the other side of this, and treating beds and medical equipment. Some of the psychics that, or clients that came here and waited here in the room for the treatment, they disclosed that they saw here an operation room, an additional operation room, not visible to the physical eye. In addition to the different physics that aliens are aware of and living, I also found out during the treatments that human body, as we know it, is also only a small portion of what a human is. In addition to the physical body that us, the human know and the hospitals treat, there are many other bodies that each one have, and these bodies are, sometimes they are from past history, they are in other dimension, and all these bodies are related, they are connected to each other, and sometimes the disease is from another body, such these bodies, and they have to treat all the bodies in order to solve the problem. If they treat only the physical body, it will not cure. And it is very sophisticated, much more sophisticated than the conventional medicine knows about it. They also, the conventional medicine just know the physical body and have no idea that there is a lot of other bodies that are part of a human, as we know it. During my first months with the aliens, I found out they implanted into my head special equipment, communication equipment that enables me to channel very far away to their communication central. This is something new that we don't know here on Earth. It's like a telephone communication center and telepathic communication center and a control center and a very big library that you can ask everything. And this enables me to contact with them whenever I want and to get information in a very high level, sometimes technological level. And the most practical thing of this is if some patient calls me on the phone, on the cellular phone, I immediately have the feedback of the aliens. They tell me, ask him about that, give me some answers. And they listen all the time. So it's something amazing. I can ask the library information, and it's very amazing. It's very difficult to explain it. I try to put it in the book to explain how this is working. It's amazing. This is the alien clinic, my alien clinic. In the physical world, you can see just the room, treatment bed, sofa, computer, chairs. That's all in this room. In another dimension, there's a very sophisticated operation room here. There's a lot of equipment, something coming from the ceiling, some of the equipment is very sophisticated bed, And around this room, there are a lot of rooms with, this side is the laboratory, a lot of equipment that are doing chemical tests and body tissue tests. On that side, there is they tell me the children's room. The aliens, some of them come here with the families and children, so they decided this side, which is a nice open space, as the children's room. On that side, there is, for me, it looks like a very small nuclear reactor or whatever it looks like. They say they take a lot of energy from that point. On this area, I know there is a computer, a telepathic computer, that is responsible for most of the communication that's going on here. When I ask about a patient that they are doing a back operation, I just ask to see what is going on, what is the problem, and they just transmit me telepathically a picture like I was inside the spine. Or they show me the area they are treating, and all these images are generated by the computer, not only for me, especially for the physicians here, and it is all telepathically. Around this room, on the second level, there is like an auditorium, like in a university operation room that many students come to see, and most of the time it's full of very strange looking creatures watching what we are doing here. And I know that below this floor they have a very large pool. I don't know what it is used for, and it's a lot of equipment. I have several cases of patients that discover they are mediums, and during the treatment the aliens take them for a tour around this complex. It's just amazing and unbelievable. The aliens, although they are from many planets and many shapes and sizes and sometimes very strange-looking creatures, they are very polite. They don't ask anything from us, and they are doing their best to help us. And they are very discreet. I can live in this apartment just ignoring the aliens.
And suddenly, from out of nowhere, came 5 people, 2 in front of me and 3 at the side. They were strange faces, I mean human beings like us, but very strange faces. They smiled at me and they said, okay, we'll take care of you.
Today in Israel there are more than 50 clinics like this one. I'm not the only one. And every few days a new medium healer comes here and he states, I want to work with the aliens.
Now I can walk, I can run, I'm back again in my life.
And they checked him and they tried to help him how to get into this way of working with the aliens. I know there are a lot of clinics all over the world. In the United States there are plenty of clinics. I'm not sure that everybody tell they work with aliens, but there are a lot of aliens working there.
Millions of stars. And I said to myself, in this big cosmos, there is only us living.
Hello, Laurie. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and about what the kind of things that you do?
Mary, I'm a local lad from near Perth. I was born in North Perth. At an early age I found I was clairvoyant, and over the years the artwork I do I found has some connection with space people, other galaxies, other universes, things like that. Because of the nature of the work that comes out, I don't often quite know how it's going to finish up, but it seems to come in from somewhere, or I go out of the body to the places that I'm drawing and looking at. It's quite interesting. At the same time, I found I could heal people and do readings for people and some unusual things, and at an early age I realised I was down here for a reason, not just to go through life and just be ordinary, that I was more like a teacher.
Thank you, Laurie. Could you tell me how you feel that your artwork is inspired by your extraterrestrial contact or connections?
By the nature of the work which I do, it's I can do ordinary artwork like an Australian scene or a cartoon, but this work is different, and it all seems to go back out into the universe or down into the inner earth areas or things like that. And it's different, alien and unusual, but there seems to be a message in it, either to do with somebody is communicating with me along the line of putting things out as a teacher, or to do with healing things for the population around the planet, and the connection between the space people from way, way back millions of years ago and this Earth was there and is still there, and it's coming to the fore in this Aquarian age in big doses from all ages in the population, particularly the children.
How does this information get given to you about the drawings that you do?
I think I actually access it by being with the people, whether they come here or in my lounge room or where I'm working on the work study, or whether I go out the body to their areas. It's instantaneous, the travelling between point A and point B, and quite often I'm not aware I've been out of the body till I come back to it, and the body's there still drawing, but I might have only drawn a quarter of an inch line and I felt I've been away an hour. So it's all, I've been giving this work and this artwork to show to the people, educating, teaching or helping or something. But it's very enjoyable to do for myself. I never seem to get tired doing it, regardless how many hours. And even if I've been out the body since maybe for 2 or 3 hours, my wife's come into the room and there's been no one there, and then she comes back later and I'm back. It's quite astonishing for her too. So that's...
So you're actually not there some of the time, you actually physically disappear?
I actually went on to one of these other planets in the Pleiades system for about 4 days on and off in 1975 and drew a whole lot of the material there. I finished up staying there with these people there at an underground psychic cavern. My wife noticed I wasn't in the room quite a lot, physically just disappeared.
So sometimes you physically disappear, sometimes it's like it's an instant downloading of information that you get about your drawings.
That's right, I could be sitting there drawing and this information pours through 100,000 words in seconds. It takes me weeks to write it all down and draw it and access it back again out of the mind.
Thank you. When you actually have you do these drawings, is there a difference between the normal time where you just want to do an artistic drawing or a creative drawing? Is there a difference in feeling when you actually do these drawings?
Yes, I can do the ordinary artwork, might be doing a cartoon or a heading for a book or something. But with this work, I have a feeling of elation, niceness, healthiness. I'm nearly 75, but I feel like about 25 when I'm doing this work. So there's, I'm being imbued with an extra sort of energy from somewhere out there. It's quite often I see the aliens clairvoyantly in the room and things like that. Other times I don't. But I know it's for a purpose, and a higher purpose, I hope, to help with the people in this particular point of time in this Aquarian age, where there's so many of the children who are actually space children who need someone to show them these particular things from their source point.
What I'd like to also ask you is about all the models that you've created. Can you tell us what inspired the models of the ships and spaceship?
Yes, many a time I'm out of the body travelling around and I see these craft out there. I can actually go inside the craft and walk around inside, see the people that's in there, see how they're controlled and what their purpose is. There are people out there who travel around in thought craft a lot. The Andromedans and some of the Pleiades people use thought craft. And I'm allowed to access these because I'm at a reasonable level, apparently, according to them. Because of all the research and the years of study and reading I've done over 60 years, I suppose, it helps. And quite often our thought paths cross I'm thinking about something and somebody else is thinking about something very similar wavelength. We connect up and it materialises. And I had a gentleman when I was working on a spacecraft in Melbourne in my carport called the Cygnus. And this gentleman from Cygnus arrived, unusual looking character, just this apparition thing sort of appeared in the carport floor, and up he grew out of that. A beautiful looking gentleman, and he was sort of scratching his head as much as say, who are you? You know, and I was thinking, who is he? And I realised that was a Cygnus gentleman. He'd come through because of the craft. That was very interesting.
When I've seen the craft, Laurie, that you've, the models that you've done, you seem to have an intimate knowledge of how the craft work and what's inside them. And that is because you've actually been inside and actually seen them. So they're not basically a product of your creativity. They are actually craft that you've seen when you've gone out of body. Is that correct?
That's right, Mary. I actually go inside them, and quite often they expose areas of the craft which I think normally would be not made available for me to see, so I can learn how to do these things later on in the future, how to propel craft with music through space. The Andromedans do that with a beautiful craft, and the tail end is actually like the sine wave of music, and very similar to the shape of the treble clef in the front of a bar of music. And the Chinese pagodas were built with the same principle. And the Atlanteans used music to propel their craft, and it's very much, a lot of my work comes down to music, mathematics and geometry and things like that. So they possibly want me to try and design some of their thought motors and things like that, which sounds pretty strange, for use for our own future craft rather than rockets and things like that. And I know that some of the children in this Aquarian age of vibration that are being born in West Australia in great numbers are the forerunners of some of these great scientists and builders and things like that, you know. So I will become a bit like a teacher for them, or a shower.
Now, Laurie, I'd like to ask you about healing. I know that you've experienced doing healing yourself occasionally, but there was one particular experience that I found quite fascinating. And would you like to tell me a little bit about when you saw a lady being healed by the extraterrestrials? Could you explain how that was?
That was extremely interesting, even for me. I see some pretty weird things. But I was doing a reading for this Michelle, nice lady. She had a bit of a problem around her head area, and a friend suggested I come and see me. So she sat down there. She only sat down at the table for about 2 minutes, and I picked up this damaged right ear, and I was sort of looking at her right ear and then feeling the energy in my left. Quite often I get it like a photographic reflection, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I can do something about that. And the next second, through the window to my right, 3 space people just whizzed in, stood behind her, picked her up, an astral body out of her physical form, floated her across into the lounge, which I could see in through the open double doors into the lounge. Later on the lounge, proceeded to heal her ear with this beautiful big blue light sort of cone, light energy cone, put it into the ear and then poured this light liquid into it. And I was watching out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching her and talking about her ear and this, that, and the other. And the next second she goes, oh, you know. I said, what was that? She said, oh, my ear just froze. She felt this energy going in. And so I almost forgot about the reading. I was carried on, and I'm trying to look at these blokes, these 3 people, 2 ladies and a man. And anyway, they'd finished. They brought her astral body back and put it into the physical, and then nodded to me. They don't have a lot of emotion, like big smiles, stuff like that, just very clinical and do the job, and then whizzed off out through the window. And I told her, I said, oh, Michelle, I said, some space people just come and healed your ear, so you are worthy of that. And she burst into tears. She said, I knew I've been connected with these people and I wanted to see them. And she looked out the window and she'd become clairvoyant with their energy, or I'd helped or something. And the craft was out over my back lawn. And she looked out and she waved to them. She could see them. And they waved back because I could see them myself. And she burst into tears again. And I was almost the same way myself. It was just beautiful to think that I'd been sort of helped or used as a instrument to help heal her. But it was, as I said, she deserved it. That was quite amazing.
One final question then, from what you're saying, Laurie, it seems to be that they communicate on lots of different levels, obviously telepathically as well as visually and through symbols, and this kind of thing is what you've been talking about. Is there any other way that you feel that they communicate with us apart from the ones I've mentioned?
Yes, they maybe do it in 20 ways that we don't know about. Like a plant has 32 sensitive organs. We have about five or six. And these people are aware of the other ones which we don't use. And they show me by teleporting me. I actually teleport out of a body. I had a big crisis station wagon. We used to teleport in that, the wife and myself, which was quite amazing. And things like this, showing all these other aspects of, to them, natural, but to us, science fiction. Let's see, our auras are very important in this current age, to get our aura in better shape by eating better, eat more fruit and vegetables, things like that. Think better, the thought, this is the major thing, and to love, put out love. Just putting out love and using the word love puts pink into your aura straight away, which is healing. And they have that around them all the time. When they come near me, I feel this, it's like unconditional love. It's beautiful. And it makes me feel very humble, which is not my normal emotions. And they're trying to teach me, to show me so I can teach the people to be more like this. And that way they'll access more to come in. As you research and study and meditate and things like that, you go up to a certain level, and when you get to a certain height, they will meet you halfway. It's not a free lunch. You have to do the work, and they'll meet you halfway. And the more you do, the more you work, the more they will give you. And even one of the ancient, I think it was a Greek philosopher, said once we learn to use our imagination as being real, like an Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass and things like that, we'll achieve much, much more. Even Nikola Tesla, the brilliant scientist from way back, he said once mankind touches the other dimensions, it'll be open stated for all the knowledge. And I'm sure he did go into some of these areas himself with some of these inventions, because it was very way out 50, 60 years ago.
And finally, Laurie, is there anything particular that you would just like to end this with? Anything else that you'd particularly just like to say to end what we've talked about?
Oh, I'd like to say I'm talking to the people out there. Yes, learn to use your imagination, use abstract thought. Don't think of anything as impossible. The sky's not the limit, it's just the start. Be yourself. Try and love your fellow neighbour. That's the biggest healer of all, love. And watch what you think. We are far vaster in our emanations and our aura than we realise. We go out miles in actual fact, our auras. That's why we interact with so many different things, and the plants and the trees. Try to love everything, I suppose. It's my final word. And I love you all too.
Thank you, Laurie. Author-experiencer Dana Redfield wrote both Summoned and the E.T. Human Link, We Are the Message. In her books, she writes about communications through her contact experiences. She says, I was writing about codes and frequencies in 1993, long before I heard talk from other experiences. Dana has done an array of complex drawings over the years, which she believes are in scripts, codes and languages. Some of this data, she believes, shows gateways and portals. She explains, at the time I understood it, but couldn't retain conscious understanding. I did try to leave notes or tracks so that I could understand it later. It's contact communication. I've got so much, but it gets buried. To explain that it's like working mid-plane between human languages and mathematics, and the higher laws of communication/creation. It all began with working with letters and numbers for me. I know letters as representations of domains and certain words like concept fields. Letters like 3D or 4D geometric forms are like abbreviates or pieces of concepts too large to be comprehended by the uninitiated brain-mind. I think many of our symbols and drawings are like crude writing, efforts to translate what we are conceiving, seeing in mid-plane, but cannot bring into the whole. Destiny Woman. This drawing shows 4 pathways through the house of life to higher states of being. House of the Earth School, which is similar to the Kabbalah Tree of Life. It was given to me, she said. I use it in many ways to glean things beyond what the linear logo school brain can understand. I recognize similarity to certain aspects of the Kabbalah relationship of the human body to the cosmos. Alpha Omega Man relates back to Egypt and the human body. It's man's journey through time. In a word, she says that the alphabets are like our energetic physiology. Inner eye is a geometric polyhedron, trying to map the process. Star Wheel. These drawings can be summed as tools and potentials as I explored new minefields. Skiosis, which shows corridors and portal paths. I do remember while I was making these drawings, I felt like I was seeing a very big picture, a design behind our lives and all created things. Letter mosaics began in 1993. However, concepts worked in depth over and over are planted in my consciousness. It seems we're tasked with unpuzzling a kind of art, linguistic, sacred geometry. I was told to keep working from complexity to simplicity. I find creative ways to express this when called for. This seems to be happening in the letter mosaics. This is about communication beyond words, with the letters like gateways to other dimensions of thought or experience. Tools for wave communication, a sense that we are awakening is happening in waves, and we are visited more intimately than we are used to thinking is possible. Wave communication is contact. I don't know the science of it, just know it happens in waves. In fact, I feel I have a good understanding of it, but it can't be easily explained by words. That is why I'm drawing these, as it's preparing my mind, as it were, almost like tricking my mind out of the language. I need to be clear when I say that I'm not providing a new Kabbalah or alphabet. This work is not to expand knowledge as we use knowledge or to reveal secrets. It's more to shock the spellbound mind awake. And when awake, the communication contact is natural. I mean, it's always within us and with us. It speaks through the cells. It's in the center of us. The simple story is that I did all the work with letters. The contact was coming in more clearly. And doing the mosaics I was working on from the other side, I would wake up from dreams with the symbols in my mind, often hazy, but I would do my best to put them onto paper. All words are composed of symbols. The alphabet tree highlighted the symbols from contact communication received in 1993. highlighted symbol is actually the whole alphabet in one letter, one on top of the other. The same assembly is in the last symbol on the Z. K. This features the star kid Genesis along with the other pictorial references to the field of keys. Look at the letter M. It looks like an Egyptian symbol for water, but we are spellbound by the shapes and letters. Words as they are dictated by the dictionary without the rich history behind the symbols. But the symbolism is in the collective unconscious. It shows in the language of dreams, in our artwork and high communication. And Z is from ziggurat to culmination of the tree of life. Again, the assembly of letters is in the corner of this glyph to the right side. I think the symbols are triggers, all right, but I don't think we know what they trigger, as it's personal to each. So looking at the base component of symbols of words, letters, is a way to wake up the mind from its spellbound state. And when you begin seeing into the words or seeing them as created symbol references, you are literally opening new doors of possibilities for the mind. It's a way to shock the spellbound mind. This is much bigger than a communication problem. My task is to show something that might open a few minds in preparation for what is coming. Something big is going to happen in a way we communicate. I am not showing anything to enhance knowledge because our knowledge through words is too limited and distorted to begin with. But we have to be awakened, and it's different for everyone, and it's not just one event. It happens in waves, as I've explained. At some point there will be a critical mass effect. Then suddenly we experience something no one has experienced before on Earth and couldn't experience until this point. Neo-geometric scripts, which start with the words, "Dearly beloved human being of the second order." On the second, we see again the scripts translated even more, where it talks about how we were created as unique, individualized beings. And then a drawing entitled Information Storage. And another one that Dana points out that this is one of 4 that they came after months of working with letters and numbers, and said that when she saw my video Expressions of ET Contact, I thought of these drawings and see the letters and numbers embedded in the drawing, as she said. Finally, many experiencers have put detail of their experiences into fictional novels, supposedly fictional novels, as Dana did in the book Jonah that she wrote. There are symbols in this book that she remembers, and the symbols on this particular page depict the inside and outside of nature of our being, as per David Bohm, the physicist, describes. Jonah is observing the symbols on a rock pillar others have named the Star Rock. He has no idea what the symbols mean. He decides to draw his own symbol, a Star of David, and puts a hole in the middle. And at that instant, he is transported and proceeds to have experiences in other dimensions. And then he has the big question. Did he really go there? Was it an OBE, out-of-body experience? Or was he taken or abducted? This is true for us who experience the ET contact phenomenon, Dana says. And of this process, she explains, it's like being slowly infused with a new kind of light that is changing the very links and pathways of the brain. It's really complex. It's like a complicated map of my journey in adapting to a new consciousness. I felt elated and empowered while I drew these things, and totally amazed at what I was seeing. It really changes people. And she said it's also helpful to see the work of others so that we know we're not going nuts. I will now narrate the story of a professional artist from the UK who expresses his contact experiences through his artwork. My very first memory was when I was attending primary school in the East End of London. I remember it was in daylight hours after school finished, in the long summer evenings and weekends. I would get this impulse to play with special friends and go to a special spot at the back of the school. I went back to this spot later and knew exactly where it was, and when I saw it again, it was uncanny. It was obviously something about this spot. When I went there were other children, but not those I went to school with. I have missing time from that period, for whatever happened was screened out. We'd all meet at this spot and go off somewhere. There was no fear, but an incredible sense of adventure. And then I'd find myself back at home. I can remember Mum wondering where I was and becoming quite concerned. I'd basically gone missing. But I had no sense of anxiety at all. It was like, what's the problem, Mum? I'm here. As I got older, in my 7th or 8th year, I had clear memories of silhouette beings coming into my room at night. Even the shape of the being's head, it's weird. And when the film E.T. came out, it was like, oh my God, I've seen that shaped head before. It was bizarre. Dwarf-like creatures, small silhouettes, and there was no fear. But having said that, as a child, I could never sleep with the light off, and definitely being afraid of passageways and elevators terrified me. And that was the same for Father Christmas. He terrified me. If we were in Oxford Street in London at Christmas time, Father Christmas was everywhere, and it was so embarrassing. I would know when they were coming. I'd be laying down in bed and basically see little heads playfully pop up to play games with my feet. I used to lay my feet flat and they would duck under the bed, and this was all the while my parents were in the kitchen having a cup of cocoa. The closest they'd get to me is halfway along the bed, and I would be out of it and fall asleep. Or maybe they knocked me out. I have a very clear memory in Essex. I can remember seeing above the top of the mighty oak in daylight a classic disc. It was hovering above the treetops at no more than 8 to 10 feet, and the branches were thrashing, swirling about like in a vortex. The thing hovered silently. I was alone just with my dog. I told my parents about it, but my parents were embarrassed. I think they thought I was lying. In my teenage years, I know there was a lot of activity, but also a lot of screening. And there are huge chunks of what I call missing memory. A lot happened after the film Close Encounters came out. I found it so hard to watch. I really found it frightening, and it triggered lots of memories, particularly with the abduction of the little boy, Carrie. During my adolescent years, I had memory gaps, although I knew stuff was going on. It wasn't until my early adult years things started to heat up, and my childhood obsessive-compulsive need to draw flying saucers. I used to draw them all the time. As regard ETs, I could have easily drawn them too, but there was too much fear. I think these have been blocked. In my early 20s, I went to Australia, and the paranormal experiences were out of this world. As an experiencer, you continually question, what's going on? Am I barking mad? Have I lost the plot? The noises, lights switching themselves on and off, footsteps, strange smells, periods when you have this absolute fear of going down the passageway. I had a very long passageway, and in some nights it used to absolutely terrify me. I could not go down it. I did have some friends staying sometimes, and they were always traumatized in the morning. One friend actually got up and left the house. Is it paranormal? Is it ET? Or is it both? Again, the fear factor, just like the fear of the elevator in my childhood. I know that particularly from 1983 onwards, living with my wife, and I believe she was an experiencer too, we had so many things in common, such as a shared fear of passageways, absolute fear of spiders. I was terrified of them. I know my wife was experiencing things, but I think a lot of screening was going on. Images were coming to me, always flying saucers, spectral beings with large eyes, but it was all a jumbled mess. In 1997-98, this is when it gets totally intense. A friend with his wife came to stay with me. They stayed in the spare bedroom, which incidentally was always cold. The first night I heard lots of strange noises, and the next day my friend's wife looked totally scared. She told me that although the bed was facing the window was not there, and she saw a gigantic porthole, and coming towards her were silhouette beings, which she put down to ghosts or demons. Every time she woke up, she saw the porthole, with the beings getting closer to her. She was so terrified she felt her life was threatened. She didn't want to spend another night there. I had 2 encounters at the time of renovating the house. As the memories are coming back, I'm reliving it. These are very vivid, and so are the emotions. It's an adrenaline rush. My dog would wake me up at night and need to go outside. I stepped out while waiting for Puppy, just marvelling at the planetarium of the sky. Looking at the overhead power lines, my eyes were drawn sharply to what appeared to be a black helicopter with a searchlight, hovering dangerously close to power lines, only about 30 or 40 feet. Then I noticed no rotors, all sound as it began to look like a helicopter spaceship, and I thought, they're looking for me. I noticed this bright circular light, large, 5 to 6 feet in diameter, searching, moving, backwards and forwards, and I'm in fear of being stalked. But I'm awake, and this is real. The dog is frozen. I leave the dog and run through the house. I see the searchlight in the living room. I run to the workshop, and in there I feel safe. I run into this dark room, and there's one beam coming through the wall. And that's my only memory. I suddenly find myself back in bed. The next night I find myself in the passageway, and there's a beam coming through the wall. I see 3 beings, and I stand there frozen. One being says to me telepathically, "You will remember this." The being was short, a classic grey, and I stand 6'2", and he was about 3 foot 3 inches, and I'm towering over it, but the feeling was it's actually looking down at me, and that's all I remember. The next morning I woke up, and I was in my bed. I went to the coast for a holiday. That was when I started to do major ET artwork, the Watchers in the Woods. I know I was having ET experiences. I couldn't even walk in the dark, and the fear was incredible during that time. That was when it all began to mean something to me, and the compulsion to keep drawing aliens. The friends I was staying with may have thought I was weird because I had to spin a tale of why I was drawing them. I know the artwork frightened them, and my feeling was, okay, you've seen us now, get it right. That's the key thing, the whole process. That's what it means the most to me, getting the imagery right. No vague sketch. Most important is the detail. Those 6 weeks I would sleep with the lights on. Yes, it was quite an experience. The ET artwork was obsessive compulsive. I wanted to do it all the time, but I also had to earn a living. In New Zealand sometimes I had to call in sick when I wasn't sick because I was too afraid to go to sleep at night. There was this overpowering fear of going to sleep, and I'd make myself stay awake. And when I was doing the artwork related to ETs, the energy was intense. I was physically and emotionally sick, headaches, nausea because of the frequencies. And then the 7-hour phone call to you, Mary, which never turned up on any phone bill. And that was when you changed my life, when I realized that for the first time, what really was going on. And I must admit, and this is not to make you feel bad, but after the phone conversation, I ended up going to bed in a fetal position and just crying. I remember you giving me advice to tell them to back off. It was like having a client, the ETs, standing behind you while you're painting, and the feeling, make sure you get this right. It was so draining, and the physical sickness. I could feel the energy coming through to get that imagery right, and the feeling of huge responsibility, part of my work, getting the information out there. I believe the timing of things makes most things come about. I found the abductions at the time slightly different. I was waking up with funny tastes in my mouth, like salty lemonade taste. Back in the UK, it's where the activity starts to get physical, with marks. One prominent memory was waking up with blood in my mouth, realizing that my tongue had been operated on. Well, a piece of my tongue was not only scraped clean, I have it on videotape, it's quite disgusting. There was a big scoop mark, but no pain, sore with blood. And the side of the tongue had marks in a geometric pattern as if it had been clamped like fish hooks to keep it in place. I was in such a daze that day and was getting funny looks from people, and I was just wondering, why do they want a piece of my tongue? And it was after that I had the ET tattooing on the ends of my fingers, the hand that does the drawing, and again I ask why. I am now starting to get codes and symbols. The goalposts have shifted. It's quite bizarre. I was basically doing artwork on this one called Night Skies, and this young man, he's a star kid for sure, said, "I've seen that," and my friend told him that I draw from life. When I did the automatic picture for the star kid, he's seeing greys, but with flatter heads, not classic light bulb shaped heads. He's picking up on red eyes and a pronounced jaw, almost humanoid, classic. It's so bizarre when people see this stuff. It's like, oh my God, it jolts them rigid. This is the funny thing. I can draw proficiently what I experience, but what others see, I have to go into concept sketches to get it right. One person said to me about my art, "My God, it's like you've drawn this from life." He doesn't know, of course. Something happens when people see this stuff. They're shaken. It's the narrative of the life picture that's driving me. And I will show you quickly what's coming through me. I'm also drawing lots with the full moon. The moon plays a big part, and greys with red eyes. I still find it astounding that it comes through so easily. This first picture was done after the second major ET experience and just before I left Australia. In terms of subject matter, I knew something major was going on. And again, the choice of colours, nothing was designed. Normally I'd work this out. As you know, colour is a language, but this just evolved. And so is this planetoid in it. This is literally an alien portrait. It was something coming through me. I couldn't stop the flow. There was a lot of fear, a lot of trepidation, and again in the skin details, the colour tone. This is not imagination. This was one of the first experiences as a child in the UK, and this next picture is a major piece, a set of 4 A2 size. Literally, all this background imagery was not designed. The Watchers in the Woods. There was a strong need to show this in daylight. These were 2 juvenile ETs, very playful and mischievous. And this is what happened to me when I was in Essex at 6 or 7 years old. And this was the first, literally, when I used to go and play with them, my special friends. You know, when I was doing this was a lot of outpouring of emotion, and there was fear. I felt like I had to get this finished. And I must say, when I was doing this, I would have been regarded as a very strange person. I really went into myself, but it had to happen. Ilkley Moor, I went into police artist mode. Something I may have seen, I don't know. This one's classic for me. It's a pencil sketch. It makes me feel very at peace and secure. There's a wonderful sense of satisfaction, automatic, this wonderful feeling of calm and peace, just as though we're having a chat over a cup of tea. The beautiful face, it's one of my favourites. Next, Ilkley Moor. These beings with red eyes, the only thing that preempted this piece was that when I went out to Skywatch, someone told me about a classic flying saucer. Nothing was mentioned about red eyes. And now I couldn't give them black eyes. It would have been wrong. There are chills to the bone when I see the detail. This guy really disturbs me. When an experiencer friend saw this, he stepped right back from me. Majestic, powerful. This one literally fell off the brush. These pieces are generic and done quickly. Colours, flying saucers. But this one also jolts me. The reptilians again. And this one jolts me. The greys with the red eyes. And they have to be red. This has been coming through. It's the full moon. Planetoids have to be in all of them. Again, just fallen off my brush. Nothing preempted this. And again, I found this one deeply disturbing. Big full moon, red eyes. It's an automatic drawing, and that too is disturbing. But these guys with red eyes, and I've only seen these reptiles from the side. I got this from 2 other experiences, and the red eyes real Kelly Cahill stuff. The craft are drawn, the images I'm creating. I'm not putting any thought into this. It's all bizarre. When this guy came through, I was shaken rigid. This one really scares me. You see the full moon again. This one goes with Colton Moor, and this one frightens people. Information is encoded in this. The full moon use of colour is generic, and again there's encoding here too. We've got a night scene. This is my standard style with regards doing this work. The red eyes and the saucer. Night scene. Standard small ET red eyes. The full moon. It just blows my mind. What I've felt since childhood. I feel I don't belong here. I felt I belong somewhere else. And this is not to say I'm not human, but I find the goings-on with the species known as humankind bizarre and primitive and still evolving. Even as a child, I could never understand what was going on. It was very distressing. I just wanted to be somewhere else. And I know I have work to do here. And again, I know it sounds crazy, but I know I'm not crazy. I'm mad, but not crazy. Just Monty Python mad. The ET involvement, quiet of late, maybe due to my circumstances. I think they're giving me a break. But you know I do miss it when they're not here. With me and my art, and this may sound odd, but it's my way of communicating, and it brings me closer to them. You know, if it goes on too long without an experience, it's like an old friend who you haven't spoken to in a long time. And yes, I know it sounds stark raving mad, but I miss them. And when I catch up with them, it feels like I'm so glad, like an old friend, and the closeness is still there. Shakespeare wrote, "There is more in heaven and earth than exists in your or my philosophy, Horatio." And what you have seen is more of what exists. A minute part of the complex phenomenon we call contact. We know we manifest many of our human experiences through creativity, as any art therapist will tell you. Complex artwork, unusual writing, hieroglyphs, strange languages are certainly a way of demonstrating that something incredible has happened to these individuals. Whether you believe it is a result of their contact or a result of their higher consciousness manifesting such a reality. How is it, though, that these individuals have such a deep understanding and knowledge? Knowledge not consciously learned is amazing in itself. An 8-year-old with contact called this process knowledge bombs, a kind of downloading of information that many with contact experience. They speak of a multi-dimensional code or universal language in which we access complex information through visual concepts, geometry, and symbology, which act as powerful energetic triggers, awakening ancestral memories existing in our DNA. Is it what they believe? A wake-up call to our evolving multidimensional selves? Certainly many viewing this material say that it seems to have a powerful effect on them, touching within them a resonance on many, many levels. Whatever you choose to believe, there is no doubt contact changes the individual. It forces them to challenge old fears and break old mindsets, and through it opens them up to a new paradigm, a multidimensional one, which for many seems to make far more sense than the one that we're a part of now. Socrates is quoted as saying, "Wisdom is knowing how little we know, and how little we know." And one of my clients, Jane, said, "I can only come to the conclusion that we're becoming conscious co-participants of our own evolution." And with that in mind, they'd better give us a brochure, which is, I guess, what they are doing. Is contact the beginning of an awakening for humanity? There is no doubt that such phenomena must give us pause for thought. We must ask if, instead of mocking and dismissing the reality of those with contact, maybe instead we should have the wisdom to realize how little we know, listen and learn. We may learn what we don't know, and contact could be the doorway to finding out.